Hello, everyone. I'm David Samarano. I am the publicity chair for 88 Crime, and I am on the board of directors for 88 Crime. Today, we are starting something new and innovative in collaboration with the Tucson Police Department. The purpose of this podcast is to create awareness of these cold case files from the area of Tucson, Arizona, and Pima County. It's important for us to remember that these cases are open, and there are ways to report information. The key way to do that is to dial 520-88-CRIME on your phone, or you can visit 88crime.org and submit information that way. There's also an app available, the P3 Tips app, so make sure you do that if you have any information regarding to any of these cases. Well, let's get started. I have a guest here with us from the Tucson Police Department, and I'm not going to take away any more time from you, so you can introduce yourself. All right, you ready?
Ready.
Let's go, sir. Go ahead, let the viewers and listeners know who you are.
Sure. My name is Steven Acevedo. I'm a detective with the Tucson Police Department. I've been with the Tucson Police Department for approximately 19 years. I've currently been in the cold case homicide unit for 2 years.
Okay.
And then prior to that, I've had some variety of assignments in investigative assignments within the agency. And then prior to that, I was a patrol officer for approximately 10 years in the Midtown area.
Wow, 19 years, that's it, huh?
19 years.
That's incredible. Thanks for being here today on this podcast.
I'm glad to be here and looking forward to talking about this case.
Okay, so let's talk about this case. If you could, for the viewers and listeners, paint a picture of that day, that night, and what happened, and we'll work through this.
Sure. The case itself is a case that is approximately 14 years old. It's a case that began in early to mid-September of 2010, involving a mother of two. Her name is Marlana McElvaine. She is a native Tucsonan, grew up on Tucson, throughout Tucson itself, attended Tucson schools, met her family. She has a sibling, and her mother are surviving family members that are very active and concerned about this investigation and this case. It had come to our attention probably the fall of 2010 when she was reported as a missing person.
So how was this case discovered?
So it was reported by a family member when Marlana had not been heard from for some time. That was something that the family described as not like Marlana. She's a mother of two. It was not out of the ordinary, out of character that, again, a mother would not communicate with family for some time.
Right.
Initially, she was reported as a missing person. Mm-hmm. The police department refers to as a sort of attempt to locate and check welfares were created in an effort to try to locate Marlana.
Yeah.
And family became very concerned after some days had gone by where Marlana had not contacted or communicated with family at all.
Was there any type of information or evidence at the scene that stood out to you or to the Tucson Police Department that day when it was reported in regards to going after some leads?
So initially, it was not. It was regarded as suspicious in terms of out of character or not within her sort of Marlana's behavior.
Right.
And then it wasn't. And so this is now middle of September of 2010 when the report is initially made. And then at some point in time, her vehicle is located on Tucson's south side. At the discovery of her vehicle itself, there seemed to be that being a potential location. She was last seen, in her vehicle, in leaving the Tucson Mall area.
Okay. What challenges did investigators face in pursuing leads with this case?
Initially, I think it was regarded as a missing persons case where there may have been challenges involved in terms of information related to her whereabouts. Was it something that prompted her to, just not come home? Kind of what was going on in her life. I don't know if that was specifically known or examined per se.
Yeah.
And then as time went on, and 14 years later, Marlana has not been heard from, and there have been no efforts on the part of Marlana to communicate with family.
Yeah.
So again, we suspect that foul play is an issue here, and I think that's something that's come about as a result of years of no resolution to Marlana appearing.
Right. Yeah. So when talking about the foul play thing, for the listeners and the viewers, what you're saying is initially we saw this as just a missing person. We're trying to find them, trying to locate them, get them back, see where they're at. Maybe they went somewhere. Maybe they potentially checked into a hospital. Maybe they checked into mental health help, something into that. In this instance, that didn't occur.
Correct.
So when you're saying there's no resolution, we truly don't know where she went, what happened. And in that regard, we would suspect that something foul, something bad may have happened.
Correct.
Okay. Has the case been reviewed several times since then?
Yes.
Has there been any new leads that have helped out a little bit or gotten any progress done into the case?
So interestingly, the time, again, going back to 2010,
Yeah.
In the subsequent years following, there were tips and information that were investigated and run down from an investigative perspective. But again, 14 years later, little to no information has been in existence.
Yeah.
And it is our firm belief that there is someone in the community that knows exactly what happened to Marlana.
So you're saying that whoever may be responsible or knows is likely in our community?
Correct.
Yeah. What information in regards to this case would be a game changer?
Certainly, in the case of Marlana, being able to locate her, whether she is alive or deceased. The idea would be that would bring about, I think, an understanding of what happened to Marlana 14 years ago. So I think being able to locate her, whether there is a possibility that she is living or her remains, I think would bring about some useful information, not only to law enforcement, but certainly her surviving family.
Right. So this is a question I'm going to ask in regards to technology, right? So we're talking about 14 years ago. Is there some sort of technology that you're aware of that would have been helpful to exist at that point back then?
Sure.
Is there anything that comes to mind that might have helped with this case?
Specifically, you're talking about, I guess, let's just talk about smartphones itself, or the transition of smartphones.
That's where I'm trying to go, yeah.
Certainly in 2007, when the iPhone debuted, that was one platform, but then subsequently there were Android platforms and other cell phone technology itself. But then in 2010, we can't go back in time and review information like that.
Right.
So that is one technological feature. Infotainment systems in terms of the location of maybe where a car would have been or would not have been. Those are sort of things that sort of going back in time would have been helpful. But at the same time, we sort of have to play the cards as they're dealt to us, per se, with respect to information. And I think that this is a classic scenario where you have a missing person where foul play is suspected, and information from the community by way of testimonial evidence is potentially going to be helpful in this case.
Yeah. Well, how do people get that information to law enforcement authorities, especially if they're feeling that they're trying to avoid retaliation or they're scared to do it? What ways are available that they can do it safely and anonymously? Sure.
I mean, first and foremost, the 520-88-CRIME, on your now smartphone keypad is one of the best ways to remain anonymous. You can contact 911, remain anonymous. You can also submit tips and information to include the uploading of photographs, text messages, and things of that sort through the P3 apps cell phone application that exists within either the Google Store or Android Store or Apple Store.
Okay.
with respect to applications, they can contact 911 or they can contact Tucson Police Investigations at 520-791-4444 and request to speak to a member of the cold case homicide unit.
Okay, thank you for that. So I have one or two more questions before we go. One of them, I kind of just, when we're talking about painting the picture, I would imagine folks listening to this are going to go, well, what was there the possibility of a weather event? Was there some other external force that may have caused an issue for her on that night, right? You know, we often hear stories of people being swept away by flash floods in the area during the monsoon and stuff, and then seeing the date that it is in September would say that we might still be in that monsoon season era. Are we able to eliminate that possibility from the information you guys have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Based, and again, going back to, sort of the phases of people's lives, right? Mm-hmm. We all have a public life, we all have a private life, mm-hmm. and we have a secret life. And in examining those dimensions of people's lives,
right.
We are certain that this is not an accident. Mm-hmm. We are certain that this is a scenario where she sort of up and left and relocated to another state.
Right.
We are fairly confident in that. And we are confident as well that foul play is suspected. I mean, one detail in terms of just sort of emotional public appeal mm-hmm. is you're talking about a mother of two very young children mm-hmm. that simply disappeared, and that onto itself is an anomaly in this case.
Right. Okay, so we can scratch that off for sure from what you've told me.
I can confidently say that.
Okay. Well, listeners and viewers, we appreciate you listening to this podcast. And if you have information, feel free to reach out to any of the avenues that were provided on this podcast. As always, we thank you for your support and help with keeping the community safe. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to 88crime.org and learn more information. You have anything else to add, Steve, or anything else you want to cover in this case? No,
to reiterate that we have not given up hope in the sense that someone in this investigation knows something. Mm-hmm. And again, they are strongly encouraged. They can remain anonymous, and it is our hope to bring about a resolution in terms of locating Marlana.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Steve.
Discover the power of 88 Crime, where your anonymous tips are rewarded with cash.
When you call in anonymously with the tip, you are given a code. With the code and a password, you can walk into a bank and redeem your reward anonymously. If your anonymous tip results in a felony arrest, you can claim up to $2,500 cash reward.
Let's stop the silence on crime and strive for a safer community. For more information, please visit 88crime.org or call 88crime.